Brian Mueller is the president of Grand Canyon University, probably the most booming campus in the state of Arizona. And that didn't necessarily come easy. So today, for my leadership project, I decided to sit down with Brian Mueller and get insight onto who he is, what his insight was when coming into Grand Canyon University, and how that has grown and changed over time throughout the course of his career. This is what I learned. Hello everybody, my name is Connor Giroux. I am sitting here with President of Grand Canyon University, Brian Mueller. Brian, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be here.
Absolutely, glad to do it.
So I want to start at the beginning. You were a high school basketball coach.
High school teacher, basketball coach, college professor, small college basketball coach, yep.
Absolutely. I can probably guess why we have such a good basketball team here. So tell me, how did that initial experience where you were working in sort of a smaller group teach you about leadership to the way that you were leading people now?
You know, that's a very interesting question. People ask me how I ended up in this spot, what kind of plan I had in place to do it. I didn't have a plan. Mm-hmm. I never gave a second thought to being a university president or the CEO of a company. But I will tell you this, there is no better training to develop leadership skills, in my opinion, than high school teaching. Mm-hmm. When I graduated from high school, I went to college and I wanted to be a high school teacher. I wanted to coach. I liked high school, and I had a double major in history and theology. I wanted to coach basketball. But when you have to walk into a high school classroom 6 times for 1 hour, 30 students, with 4 different preparations, you have to lead them in learning, you have to motivate them, you have to entertain them, you have to keep their attention, you have to get them to like you, because high school students aren't like adults. If you're not very good, they let you know about it real quickly. But when you have to do that 6 times a day, day after day after day, you really learn how to communicate. A classroom is a perfect environment. You've got about 30 students there. They're all in front of you. You have very specific objectives you're trying to accomplish. You really have to form a team in a classroom. You got to get people to work together. You got to get them to like coming. You got to get them to work hard at what you're trying to teach them. And so I just think those 7 years that I had of doing that at the high school level, and then 7 years that I had doing that at the college level, it is a great breeding ground for people that want to learn how to communicate effectively, motivate people, get them to accomplish things. It's a great platform to develop leaders.
That is a fantastic point. I'm currently a member of the leadership in the Thundering Herd Pep Band. And it's not high schoolers, but it's dang close. It's a wild time. How did that experience in particular, like you were put in a position where you were a high school teacher, coach, wanted to keep on going there. You end up at University of Phoenix. How did that transition happen? And what did you have to do to adjust your philosophy when it came to leading people and when it came to working with people?
Well, number one, I would say this about that, and that is that, we all have plans for our life, and they develop over the course of time. But what I now is that God has a plan for all of our lives that supersede our own plan, and it rises above our own plan. I wanted to be a college basketball coach. That was the direction that I was heading. I had 7 years in high school, I had 7 years small college, and that was going to be my future. But things weren't working for me. I had 3 kids, and all of a sudden I had a 4th one on the way. I was making $5,000 a semester teaching philosophy as part of a humanities class at ASU to freshmen and sophomores. I needed to do something different. And God led me to the University of Phoenix, and I ended up staying there for 22 years, and I learned 2 really important things. Number one, the free market system is the greatest economic system in the history of the world, and to be able to pitch an idea to the public markets and get funding for that is critical. And if you want to rebuild an industry, so to speak, and so learning to use the public markets to get access to capital in order to build something out is something I would have never learned in a classroom. I learned by doing it when we built University of Phoenix online. could have never learned that someplace else. And the other thing that I learned there is how to use technology to expand opportunities to help people gain access to education. Nobody in the mid-'80s when we started that thought that it was possible. It was really us, and we eventually reached 400,000 students all across the world. We were first to do it. And so when you take those two ideas, using the public markets to get access to capital versus philanthropy and fundraising, and using technology to build out educational programs where you can reach people literally all over the world, were the two things I learned in those 22 years that allowed me to come here and build a strategy for this. As we came here in 2008 with 900 students on the campus, a lot of debt, buildings that had been built shortly after World War II, 33rd Avenue in Camelback was a disaster from a crime perspective. There were a lot of things working against us, but my experience as a basketball coach really helped. Because when you're under the gun and in the public purview as a basketball coach, and things are not going well or you have a significant challenge, you've got to eliminate every silo on your team. Everybody has got to be on the same page. Everybody's got to be pulling in the same direction. And that's the key to building successful organizations. Number one thing I say to people when they are thinking about coming to work here is understanding you're coming to an organization where there are no silos. We have two major meetings that we use to run the university. One of them has 350 people in it. Every single aspect of the university is represented in that meeting. We go through a very specific agenda. It's very data-driven, but we are going to do it together. Everybody has the right to have an opinion. It doesn't matter whether it's their area or not. It's a very interactive kind of experience, but it's very targeted towards identifying the next step, the next step, the next step in constant improvement. And so coaching a team gives you the experience of how to bring people together, get them on the same page so everybody's pulling in the same direction, which is really important to running the university. It's really important to run a company. It may be the single most important thing.
Absolutely. How do you manage all those voices? Like, you're in a meeting with 325 people. Surely there's a lot of overlap. I'm in meetings with like 6 people and we're talking over each other. So how do you manage all those voices?
It's you know, you have to know exactly what you're going to try to accomplish. You have to have a very specific agenda on that day. It's got to be very data driven. You've got to be really good at what I would call the Socratic method, discovery through questioning. We have a couple people with microphones that are in different parts of the building, and when it's time for people to present, the microphone goes to them, the slides come up, they present. People can offer comments, they can ask questions. Most people don't think you can have a very interactive process with 350 people. It's not true. You absolutely can. And you just have to know exactly what it is you're trying to accomplish in every single meeting. You have to keep people right on. You need to keep people staying to the agenda, but it absolutely can be done. In fact, if you ever would like to come and sit in the back of the room at one of those meetings to see how that gets pulled off, I'd be happy to have you.
I'd absolutely love that. That would be a fantastic opportunity. I want to transition a little bit to, well, we're already kind of talking about GCU, but you know, in the Bible, Jesus says that we need to find people to sharpen us, like iron sharpens iron. You are at the top of the organization, and you have to manage all of these different things. Who are the people in your life that keep you accountable with all that type of stuff and sharpen you in that way?
Well, you know, we have 40 or 45 people here. Some of us have been working together over 20 years. Some for almost as many as 30 years. Nobody can do this by themselves. You know, number one, I say when we came here, I thought we had a good plan. It may work. For it to turn out like this, as quickly as it turned out like this, means that God has His hands on this, and we clearly understand that we were put here at this time, in this place at this time, because He wanted to do something significant here. I would say that's number one. And we try to stay very, very scripturally oriented. But then the 40 people that have been working together for all this time, we do a pretty good job of holding each other accountable. We're colleagues, we work together, but we're also friends. And we've been friends for a long time, and there's a tremendous amount of trust in that group. And you couldn't do this without that. You couldn't do it. We don't have side agendas, hidden agendas. Nobody's working against what we're trying to accomplish together. I think that's all extremely helpful. But then we have the same foundation. I think it's people frequently marvel at our student body and how when they come on campus they feel like it's friendly, it's a caring environment, people feel included, and they'll ask how's that happen? And I think I say our student leaders do a fantastic job on our campus, but it's that one foundation that is shared by a big part of the population that provides the opportunity for that to exist, where if you don't have that, it's very difficult. I don't know what you guys would say. If I line up 10 students in whatever environment and say, what do you like best about Grand Canyon University? Why are you here? Typically, at least 9 of the students will say the same thing. They'll use the same word. Guess what that word is?
Community.
It's unbelievable. It really is unbelievable how prevalent that is. Now, how is that created? It's the Holy Spirit is what can create that, and so we're just grateful that it exists.
Yeah, I had a friend who goes to the University of Arizona to come and visit me here, and she had said, "Man, I'm so excited to find all of the things that you can do here at GCU and in Phoenix and stuff like that." And we live in Glendale-ish area. There's not a whole lot to do in the community, but what I realized was the thing that drove me here, and the reason that I stayed here wasn't the tasks and not the objective things. It was the people that I was doing those tasks with. And you talked about that foundation. And how it's important to have that foundation. What is the foundation? What is that foundation that you and the leaders that you have surrounded yourself with composed of?
Well, the foundation I was referring to is the belief that the Jesus that came here 2,000 years ago was the Son of God, and that the biblical narrative of creation, fall, redemption, restoration is the narrative that is the explanation for why the world is what it is, and what we should be doing with our lives as a result of that. And so one of the things, because of that foundation, because we believe we're all sinners saved by grace, and the ultimate servant act in the history of the world was Jesus coming here and taking on the form of a human being, and his ministry and eventually his death. Because of that, we ought to be extremely motivated to live a life that would reflect that in some way. And so in 2011, when we had been here for 3 years and we thought, man, we've got something here that we think is going to work. Our objective was to make private Christian higher education affordable to all socioeconomic classes of Americans. When we thought we had something that was going to work, and we were going to put $1.6 billion into this campus, which we have in the last 10 years, do you really want to do it here at 33rd Avenue and Camelback in Phoenix, Arizona, or do you want to go to Scottsdale or Paradise Valley or Gilbert or Orange County, California? But why here? Why would you do that here? But it was at that point that we really started to believe that because of that foundation, it became very clear to us that God put us here at this time and in this place, not just to build a university that could bless the students that are on the campus, but to bless the community. And we put this 5-point plan together that we need place like this needs, number one, it needs jobs. 2, it needs safety. 3, it needs rebuilt homes. 4, it needs educational opportunities for the kids that are in the local schools. And 5th, families need help. And that was CityServe. I won't go into the details of all that, but that became very clear to us as we worked hard with the very disadvantaged populations that are mainly immigrants in our neighborhood. The more we blessed them, the more God seemed to bless us. And it became very clear to us, that we were put here at this time, at this place for that reason. And I think that's a real rallying point for a lot of students. I think they like the university for a number of reasons, and we're certainly not perfect, and we're trying to get better every day. But our commitment to disadvantaged populations and our ability to rise above the divide in the country. We burst on the scene suddenly, and people ask me, politically, who is the university? And I say, the Republicans on the east side of town, they all think we're Republicans because we're a Christian university and we're about the free market. The Democrats on the west side of town, they all think we're Democrats because we're about inner city transformation and we're about immigration reform because we've got 500 DACA students on our campus that need educated and they need to get a start in their life too. And so we got it right where we want them. We're about any politician that supports any policy that supports disadvantaged populations. That's who we are. And our faith and that foundation can rise above the divisiveness of the political politics that exist in our country today. And I really hope that in addition to blessing this neighborhood, and the housing values are going up, it's getting safer. We've awarded 545 full tuition scholarships to kids that come out of this local inner city neighborhood. Things are moving. But we also think that it's an opportunity for the world to see that Christian communities are different. And because the Holy Spirit's in the middle of what's happening, they can be other-oriented in a way that it's very difficult to do outside of the Christian worldview perspective.
Absolutely. Wow, I'm just blown away. I'm sorry.
No.
I was sitting, and we do auditions for our leadership, and we were doing leadership auditions yesterday, some of them, and I heard a lot of buzzwords thrown around. You hear relationships, you hear community, you hear servant leadership, you hear all these words. I want to know, how do you apply servant leadership in your day-to-day life when you are interacting with your peers and as a husband, father, member of the community, anyway?
As we're moving forward and it's a process of continuous improvement, we're trying to get better every day, every week, every month. At the programs we're offering, the faculty members that we hire, the outcomes our students are accomplishing, the jobs they're getting, the impact they're having on the community. And so as we're moving forward and as we're making big decisions, the first question we always ask is this the best thing for students? Is this going to help students? The second thing we ask is this going to be good for the people that work here? The faculty, the staff, etc. Is it good for the people that work here? And then the third thing we ask is what we're doing in some way eventually going to bless the community that we live in? All three of those things are other-oriented. It's not about us, it's about the students, faculty and staff, and the community that we live in. And so if you keep asking those questions, that becomes the culture. And we just finished a rewriting of mission statement that more accurately defines, and some students were involved in helping us draft the new mission statement. It took us a number of, about 90 days to do it, but we went through a process, and it ends up with talking about producing students who want to live their lives for others versus themselves. That's not the exact wording, but that's kind of at the heart and core of Christianity, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, that's when you narrow it all down, that's kind of what it is. The other people are more important than I am, and if I can live my life with that service orientation, that's not just a law. That's also the gospel, in that it's the only way really to be happy. It's the only way really to be fulfilled, right? I don't watch the Academy Awards anymore because I can't handle the stuff that happens there. But how many really, really famous people that are in the spotlight that are worshipped, basically, by millions, end up living happy lives. It's very difficult because it's so, I used to say, I really don't want my kids to be famous. There's too much potential danger in that. How many of those people end up with self-destructive kinds of lives? And so we're trying to model that the best that we can for students. It's one thing to say it, teach it in our classrooms, teach it in chapel and the gathering and in other Bible studies, but it's another thing to see it lived out. And honestly, today, Christianity doesn't have the impact it has in this country 50 years ago. The only way we're going to get it back is we've had enough. We need preachers and we need teachers, but there needs to be a revival. And the revival is not going to happen because of the next great D.L. Moody or Billy Sunday or Billy Graham. It's going to happen because Christian communities decide that they are going to get very involved, especially in disadvantaged communities, and they're going to reach out and they're going to pour into. I often say if you really take the four Gospels seriously, if Jesus came back today, I don't know if he'd go to Scottsdale. I think he might come to a place like this. Christianity is the only major religion in the world that migrates. Every other major religion started in a place and it's still centered in this place. Christianity migrates. Started in Jerusalem, moved to Europe, moved to North America. Now it's going to Central America, South America, and Africa. Why? Christianity goes to where people are hurting, where people know they need a Savior. It's true that Christianity is migrating, but what I like to tell students when I can is, we really don't need to go to a lot of different places in the world because the world has come here. There are 45 different languages that get spoken within 10 square miles of this place because this is a neighborhood of immigrants. South America, Central America, Africa. And so our ability right now as a Christian community to lead in the way Jesus would lead, first century Palestinian, on the street, in the street, Christianity, it's right in front of us.
Absolutely. Well, it's Dr. Mueller.
Right.
Brian, I really do appreciate you taking the time. I've learned a lot from just this little bit of time. I know that GCU loves you. I appreciate you a ton. And I hope to be an effective representative of the Thunder and Herd through some of the things that we've talked about today. Servant leadership, pouring into the community, things like that. So
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to come up, and I appreciate how organized you are, the great line of questioning, and I will put in a word right now for the greatest pep band in the country, the Thunder and Herd pep band. And when you speak of leadership, you guys got a great leader. You guys got a great leader with Paul. What he's created there over the course of years is tremendous, and the way you guys represent the institution in a servant-like way is very much appreciated. It's very obvious that you like what you're doing. You have a lot of fun, and you do it with a lot of passion, and it adds a lot to the university. It's really appreciated. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right.